Hello students, welcome to your channel Xavier's English Classes. I hope you all are good, and in today's video lecture I'm going to teach you a summary of the story The Chinese Statue, which is in the syllabus of ISC. So let me tell you the summary, and the way I'm going to tell you the summary will help you a lot to understand and also to write your answer in your examination. So what happens, I'm really sorry. First of all, in this story, the Chinese statue, this Chinese statue is an heirloom. And what is an heirloom? Heirloom is actually such an object which gets transferred from one generation to another, and it is always kept very properly and very significantly by all the generations. It is like विरासत जो आपको एक अपने पूर्वजों से ancestors से मिल रहा है, और आप फिर दूसरी जो जनरेशन है वो भी संभाल के रख रही है, क्योंकि उस जनरेशन को अपनी नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को ट्रांसफर करना है उसको. So this is how it happens that such an object, it can be anything, it can be Naulakha Har, it can be a house, it can be anything at all. And when it gets transferred from one generation to another, it becomes an heirloom for the family. And here in this story, you'll get to see this Chinese statue is actually that heirloom which will get transferred from one generation to another in a family of Heathcote. And the very first person, or you can say the first generation which has been shown in the story, the generation that actually gets this Chinese statue is the generation of Sir Alexander Heathcote. Sir Alexander Heathcote was actually a very punctual and a disciplined man who was quite tall, above 6 feet, and he was 6 foot and some quarter tall, yeah. And this Sir Alexander Heathcote actually was very much fond of art and culture. He particularly loved Ming Dynasty, and obviously because he loved Ming Dynasty, so he loved China a lot, because we know that Ming Dynasty is the dynasty of China. So he loved China a lot, and that Ming Dynasty, and particularly the art of Ming Dynasty, those statues and everything related to that. So he always used to have this dream to be able to visit China, because he had thus far only read in books about China, the art, culture, Ming Dynasty, everything. But he always wanted to go there personally, and he wanted to get such an opportunity. And you will see how he had become an ambassador, and he was posted to different places in the world, and ultimately he was posted to China, which was like a dream come true for him. So when he was posted to China, he had met the queen of that place, the empress of that place, whose name is Zeusi. So he gets to meet the empress of that place, Zeusi, because he had taken the message, he had carried the message of his empress, Queen Victoria, you can say, Queen Victoria. So the message of Queen Victoria was given by Sir Alexander Heathcote to the Empress of China when he was posted there. He was such a diplomatic personality that he was very, it was very convenient for him to get a lot of promotions one after the other, because in such services one has to be diplomatic, and he was such a person. Also, he was disciplined, punctual, and diplomatic. I think these are the traits which are required for a person, which are required to be possessed by a person in such services especially. So he had all those characteristics, and due to which it was quite easy for him to succeed in that field, and he used to get promotions quite easily. So you will see he had become a minister, and he was posted to China. And in China, he met the Empress of China. He conveyed the message of his queen to her, and then he was given a place to live there. He was at such an honorable designation as well, as we know. There is a Mandarin who always goes along with him everywhere whenever he goes, and Mandarin also is going to translate the words of Sir Alexander Heathcote into China for him, because Sir Alexander Heathcote speaks English. So in China, wherever he goes, he needs an interpreter. So Mandarin is going to interpret him into Chinese, and then Chinese will be converted into English for Sir Alexander Heathcote by Mandarin. For that reason, he used to be with him always. So we see how he was honored and given this opportunity. But for Sir Alexander Heathcote, it was not only a dream come true, but he wanted to live that dream completely to the fullest. And for that reason, what he had chosen for those, for that terms of 3 years, that he wanted to explore China completely, and he wanted to learn all that, all the art and culture, and he wanted to also enjoy that particular art which he had always wished to witness personally in China, instead of reading in the books and all. So when he got the opportunity, he actually made optimum use of it by exploring China as much as he could with the help of Mandarin, instead of staying back in the embassy. So this is what he used to do. And in the process of that, he had once reached a small village named Halishuan. So when he reaches that place, Halishuan, there he got to meet a craftsman who was a shopkeeper of a small shop over there. And he used to have, he had a lot of statues and bases of the statues over there in that shop. That shop was quite small, and it had a lot of disorganized wares kept over there. So what happens that when Sir Alexander Heathcote reached there, he was obviously very happy, you can understand, because it was like again a dream come true for him, that he had reached such a place where he had found all those statues, and he was just looking at them with wondering eyes, and he was excitedly happy or elated, you can say. So what happens that he was very much happy, and he was simply looking around, and see, it happens now, if someone is looking at something, so the person, the viewer who is watching that person while looking at a certain thing, will understand the level of interest in the person for that particular object. What I mean to say कि जो हमारे चेहरे का एक्सप्रेशन होता है उसको काउंटेनेंस कहते हैं, एक वर्ड में COUNTENANCE, काउंटेनेंस, which means facial expression. So it happens that from the facial expression of a person, you will be able to realize कि how keenly interested this person is in this particular object which he or she is holding and looking at. तो उसी तरह से क्या हुआ कि जो वहाँ पर हालीशुआन नाम के गांव में जो शॉप थी और जो शॉपकीपर था वहाँ पर, जिसका नाम है यंग ली, तो वो जो यंग ली है वो बहुत इजीली देखते ही समझ गया कि ये पर्सन जो है बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड है इन स्टैच्यूज़ में, क्योंकि वो बहुत ज़्यादा उनको करीब से और बहुत क्लोजली वॉच कर रहा है. तो उसने जाकर के कहा, सर अगर आपको इतना ही पसंद है आर्ट और ये सब कुछ, तो आई हैव गॉट अ स्टैच्यू फ्रॉम द मिंग डायनेस्टी, तो इफ़ यू विल बी प्लीज्ड टू सी दैट, तो आई कैन fetch it from my home, because it is like an heirloom for us and we have kept it at our home for a long time. So like it has passed from generations to generation. तो हमारे घर पे है, अगर आप कहें तो हम ला के आपको दिखा दें. So Sir Alexander Heathcote said yes, obviously. It was brought by Young Lee and shown to Sir Alexander Heathcote. And Sir Alexander Heathcote, जो कि एक बहुत diplomatic person है, one who is diplomatic will never speak anything impulsively, which means without thinking, बिना सोचे समझे ऐसा इंसान कभी भी कुछ नहीं बोलता जो डिप्लोमेटिक होता है, हमेशा बहुत सोच समझ के बैलेंस्ड बातें बोलता है. लेकिन पहली बार ऐसा हुआ कि सर अलेक्जेंडर हीथकोट के मुंह से अचानक से निकल गया कि ये आई विश कि ये मेरी हो जाए, मतलब आई विश कि ये मेरी होती, समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो अब जैसे ही उन्होंने ये बात कहा, मैंड्रिन ट्रांसलेटेड द वर्ड्स और फिर क्या था कि यंगली सेड कि ठीक है सर, यू प्लीज़ कीप इट। तो उन्होंने कहा नहीं नहीं, वो तो हमने बस ऐसे ही कह दिया, एंड आई डोंट मीन दैट एवरीथिंग, यू जस्ट ट्राई टू बैलेंस। But then Youngly insisted and said कि it is going to be like kind of a disgrace for us if you do not take this from our humble place. Also because you have put forth that idea that you would like to possess it. So फिर वो मना नहीं कर पाए और उनको रखना पड़ा। और वैसे वो उनको बहुत अच्छी भी लगी थी, तो उस स्टैचू को उन्होंने ले लिया। Although there are two shortcomings in that statue, एक shortcoming तो ये है कि जो स्टैचू का रोब है उसमें एक थोड़ा सा जो प्लास्टर है वो प्रोट्रूड कर रहा है, एक्स्ट्रा हल्का सा निकल आया है कहीं से, वो मतलब एक फिनिशिंग नहीं है उस जगह पर। और दूसरा जो उसमें शॉर्टकमिंग है वो ये है कि उसमें बेस नहीं है, स्टैचू में बेस नहीं है। सो बेस वॉज प्रोवाइडेड बाय Youngly separately, and Youngly had provided that base from his own shop because his shop itself had a lot of bases there, so he provided one from there, and that was actually a very good one. However, yes, it's true that the base was not at all harmonious with that statue. It was not matching with that, but yes, individually if you perceive it, then the base was really beautiful. So this is how it happened that Youngly added that base to the statue and offered that statue to Sir Alexander Heathcote. So Sir Alexander Heathcote had taken that statue and then he left from there. Yes, he was in regret also for having said those words, because it was not at all suitable for a minister to ask for a statue, or to ask for anything in this way. He shouldn't have done so. And also, because he was a minister and that person was just a craftsman or a shopkeeper, so you understand, being such a high authority, asking a humble person, an ordinary person, for a gift, this was not at all a suitable idea. So when he was sad on the way back to embassy, though it was noticed by Mandarin, and Mandarin discussed with him and also revealed the fact to him that in China it is one of the old traditions that so as to save your honor, you must give a return gift to Youngly, and that too within a year. And if you are able to give a return gift to Youngly within a year, then this is how you will be saving your honor and you can keep this statue. So this was told by Mandarin to Sir Alexander Heathcote. So Sir Alexander Heathcote thought it's fine and he would give a return gift within a year. So as soon as he reached back his place, instead of taking rest and being at peace, he began to think about the worth of that statue, and he tried to estimate it through various sources. He asked for help to Mandarin, so in finding out the cost or the worth of that statue. So overall it happened to be that the worth of the statue that came out was so high that he couldn't afford to pay without utilizing his savings, without asking the help of his wife in London to send him from his account, to send him the savings from his account. And then only he was able to do this, that he had bought a beautiful house for Youngly, and that house he had given as a return gift to Youngly. And Youngly had also felt really happy about it, since it was a beautiful house, such a house that could not be afforded by Youngly easily. So it happened that he had got that house, and since then Sir Alexander Heathcote kept that statue, and that statue was very you can say nicely, very properly kept by him. And when it happened after some time, when he was retired, he got back to his ancestral house, and there he had kept it on a mantelpiece. Now what is a mantelpiece? It is a shelf above the fireplace. There he had kept that statue. So that statue had found its place properly, you can say. He had grown old by that time, he was about to die, but he ensured to prepare a proper will before dying. And in the will, he mentioned that the statue should get transferred to his firstborn child, whether it be a son or a daughter. And in the same way, this statue should get transferred by his son or daughter, firstborn child, to his firstborn child or her firstborn child. So this was mentioned by him in the will कि इस स्टैच्यू को एलूम की तरह रखना है, कोई बेच नहीं सकता. You cannot sell it off unless there is a kind of an urgent need, and it is a matter of family's honor. तो जब तक कि फैमिली की इज्जत पे बात ना आ जाए तब तक इस स्टैच्यू को आप बेच नहीं सकते. और ये अपने पहले बच्चे को देंगे, चाहे वो बेटा हो या बेटी, और फिर वो पहला बच्चा भी अपने पहले बच्चे को, और इस तरह से करके this has to be transferred from one generation to another to the firstborn of the family. This was mentioned in the will by him, and then he died, and his firstborn was a son named James Heathcote. What is good here, I can say easy here, that the names are going to repeat. Like सर अलेक्जेंडर हीथकोट के बेटे जेम्स हीथकोट हैं, और फिर जेम्स हीथकोट के बेटे भी अलेक्जेंडर हीथकोट होंगे, फिर अलेक्जेंडर हीथकोट के बेटे जेम्स हीथकोट होंगे. तो नाम जो है वो ऑल्टरनेटिवली हर जनरेशन में रिपीट करेगा. बट आपको किस चीज़ से ध्यान रखना है, जो चीज़ चेंज होगी वो है उनकी डेजिग्नेशंस, उनकी पोजीशंस, मतलब उनका प्रोफेशन या डेजिग्नेशन आप कह सकते हैं. तो इट विल हेल्प यू टू रिमेंबर इन दैट वे. एंड बिकॉज नेम्स आर गोना बी सेम, सो टू नेम्स यू रिमेंबर वंस, and then they are going to repeat themselves every time in generation, one generation and then the other. So you see how it happens ki James Heathcote becomes a major, and then he gets promoted to the designation of a colonel. And so you can understand from this ki he was a colonel or a major, so he must be in the army. सो जहाँ पे वो रहते थे, जहाँ भी उनकी पोस्टिंग होती थी, जहाँ भी वो जाते थे, मेस में जहाँ वो खाना खाते थे, everywhere he used to ensure, in that mess itself he had found a good place for its statue, so that every time people would go for dining there, they would get to see that statue, and the statue would become a topic of discussion every time it is like looked upon. And you see that the statue was also a topic of discussion because it was quite attractive and fascinating to the people, seeing the disparity between the base and the statue. So this is how you will see how that statue used to be there and always a topic of discussion. Then before dying, Major James Heathcote had ensured to transfer this property, this heirloom, to his firstborn. So he had also prepared the same will and mentioned there in that will that it should be transferred to his firstborn child, whether it be a daughter or a son. And then likewise that son or daughter should transfer this property to his firstborn son or daughter, whoever it be. And it must not be sold unless it is a matter of family's honor. So it was properly mentioned. So Major James Heathcote died, and according to the will, it happened that his firstborn son named Alexander Heathcote got that heirloom. And Alexander Heathcote had become a priest, and he had become a father, you can say. And then he got promoted to the position of a bishop, and bishop, is given a palace to live, because it's quite an honorable designation. So, or you can say position. So when he had become a bishop and he was given a palace to live, so that was the time when that statue got the most of its attention. Because there used to be so many visitors in the palace, and almost all the time, and women used to go there, and they would always talk about the difference between the statue and the base and how fascinating it was. Everyone would discuss about it. So you see that this goes on in this way. Then that bishop, or you can say that Reverend Alexander Heathcote died as well, and before dying he had also ensured to prepare the same kind of a will, and according to the will, this property would get transferred to his firstborn, who is James Heathcote. but he is a captain. So this gets transferred to Captain James Heathcote, who is again in the army. And unfortunately, it happens that he dies while being at war against Germany, and this is how it is his end. So Captain James Heathcote dies. When Captain James Heathcote dies, being at war while fighting, he was young, and since he was young, so his firstborn, his son, was very small at that point of time, named Alex Heathcote. And after his death, it happened that his mother, that means his wife, or that son's mother, the mother of Alex Heathcote, and his grandmother, they found Alex all alone, so they used to pamper him also. He got spoiled, and he got so much spoiled that he was also terminated from the school, and he was not able to study, was not at all doing well in his life. Eventually, it happened that the mother, who was not able to control her son, committed suicide, and she decided to leave the world and join her ancestors. So you will see how she had died, and then he was left more alone, you can say, without either of the parents. So he got spoiled completely. He started his casino, and there he used to plan, and every time his plans would fail, he would not be able to succeed in that business, but he continued to make a lot of investments. All went in vain, and he continued to fail, which resultantly took him into a huge amount of debts which he was not able to pay back. So the creditors began to threaten him to take his life, and therefore he had to eventually decide to sell that statue, that Chinese statue, which he thought would give him a good amount of money, and that's how he could save himself. Because it was mentioned in the will that this Chinese statue should be sold only when it is a matter of family's honor. So the son decided that it was a matter of family's honor. However, you see how selfish he had turned out to be, because he did not ever care for his mother or for anything for the family's honor and for that heirloom as well. So he eventually decided to just sell it off, and you see how ironically the story has brought this end to us, that when that statue is taken to the auctioneer house by him, so there it had turned out to be for 700 pounds or 800 at the most. However, he had to pay his debts much more than that. So this much of amount was not at all enough for him to pay off his debts. So it happened that he left the statue there and moved away. But you see, ironically or sarcastically, satirically, that the worth of the base of that statue was far more than the worth of the statue. If you remember, तो बेस अलग से प्रोवाइड किया था यंगली ने, और बेस की जो वर्थ है वो स्टैच्यू से कहीं ज़्यादा है. लेकिन जैसे ही उसे एलेक्स हीथकोट को पता चलता है कॉस्ट या वर्थ उस स्टैच्यू का, उसके लिए कोई सिग्निफिकेंस नहीं है, कोई इम्पोर्टेंस नहीं है, कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता कि ये एक नॉर्मल स्टैच्यू नहीं है, ये उसकी फैमिली की इज्जत है, विरासत में मिली है, एंसेस्ट्रल प्रॉपर्टी है, हेirloom है. उसे इस बात से फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता, वो उस हेirloom को छोड़ के वहीं चला जाता है. और सैटिरिकली यू सी कि सदबी में, विच इज़ एन ऑक्शनियर हाउस, वहाँ पर फिर उस बेस की कीमत लगाई जाती है, and which turns out to be 22,000 guineas. And which is so huge an amount that it couldn't be afforded by an ordinary person. So it was paid by an American gentleman who must be very rich, affluent, quite well off, who could afford, and he paid that much of amount and took away the base of the statue. If he had understood or realized the worth of that heirloom, he would have waited there and taken away that statue with himself if that statue couldn't help him pay off his debts. But he simply left from there and lost that amount which the base would have paid him, being so worthy. So you see, this is the lesson. When we are selfish, we tend to get nothing, out of it. If we are selfish, if we cannot do anything for anyone, if we are not bothered about our members, family members, friends, relatives, people who are around us, who are dear to us, who love us, so if we do not value them, then eventually life takes us to this destination where we are not valued by anyone, where we tend to get nothing, at all. Rather, what? Dishonor, defamation, and disgrace, insult, threats from people, and eventually he had to, try to seek some shelter where he could save his life. But that too in vain, since the creditors were chasing him like anything, and they were after his life. So this is the message of this story. I hope you understood the summary. I tried to shorten it as much as I could, and then too it became quite a long video. So I hope you have understood this much, and thank you so much for watching.